Welcome back. So up until this terror threat happened, the White House's top focus has been health care reform. Now, the Senate's still working with the House to mold a final bill, but the big question remains how to pay for reform. The House looks to tax the rich. The Senate wants to impose a Cadillac tax on the most generous health plans. But Republican Congressman Bill Cassidy of Louisiana says, it doesn't matter how you fund it. This bill is a budgetary scam. Congressman, welcome. What do you mean that it's a budgetary scam?
Liz, if you look at the way that it decreases our national deficit in 20 years, it says in 2010 it's going to cut physicians' reimbursement from Medicare by 21%, and it's never going to raise it again. So 20 years from now, we're going to be paying physicians 20% less than we paid them in 2009. That's just not going to happen. They did it to make it look good for the CBO. But it is a sham, a fraud. They should be ashamed of themselves.
Congress, it's always struck a lot of people as fake reform. It's not, look at this debate between the Republicans and the Democrats feel as old as the Talmud itself. In other words, free market reforms versus tax and spend policies. The issue here is that the insurance companies still have a monopoly on insurance. There's nothing to stop them from price gouging, no?
Well, a couple of things. I would say that the reform is the debate bill is against patient-centered care or more of the same. More of the same is the top-down bureaucratic approach. Now, we can look at Medicare and Medicaid, or just the federal government in general. It controls 60% of the health care dollar, and to a significant degree is a major driver of increased cost. So for the insurance companies, there may not be the competition. On the other hand, the federal government hasn't done very well either.
Right.
A patient-centered approach, health savings accounts, for example, have been shown to decrease costs by 30%. This is by Kaiser Family Foundation and others. Decrease costs by 30%. 27% of people who have HSAs were previously uninsured.
Yeah, what you're talking about is another form of free market reform, and that is a health savings account. Absolutely. Where the patient self-directs. But again, I got to say, the monopoly that the insurance companies still have on insurance, selling insurance, remains. Democrats and Republicans didn't lift it. The insurance companies can still price gouge through it. The Democrats are saying, look, let's tax after the fact. Let's tax these Cadillac health plans. Let's not do interstate competition. Even the head of the AMA says he's for interstate competition in insurance. Why aren't these reforms happening?
Well, I think that there is a very kind of federal government-centric approach being advocated by the Democrats. They clearly have the votes, and they clearly are going to get what they want. The insurance companies don't particularly care for interstate competition, and they will argue that it's there to an extent, but it's certainly not there to a great extent. And so if you think you like bigger government, then you're going to like the approach that's being taken.
I'll tell you something. This is fake reform, Congressman. And it seems to me, tell me if I'm wrong, it seems like this administration is taking a page out of the Bill Clinton attempts at reform. In other words, you got to get the buy-in of the insurance companies, so leave them alone. Is this what's happening now?
Well, they clearly reached out to different groups. I'm a physician, so they reached out to physicians, and so we have the head of the AMA signing off on it, even though it's going to supposedly decrease physician reimbursement from Medicare by 20%. Similarly, pharma signed off. And I think that if you go to free market solutions, all those folks fear that they would lose. If you put a patient in the middle of the process, she's going to decide what's best for herself. And studies show it'll bring costs down. If you bring costs down, insurance companies make less, pharma makes less, and as a physician, right, I'll say the physicians make less.
But you know what? It's on a wing and a, I'll tell you something, Congressman, you're making some great points, but this is reform on a wing and a prayer, spit and a promise. It's like they're saying the AMA and the drug manufacturers are going to deliver cost savings. Try to shepherd the nation's 180,000 doctors to deliver cost savings. That's like trying to, shepherd mice through a baseball stadium. Are you confident that that can happen?